Positive behavioral interventions and supports is one way schools can approach students who are struggling with their behavior to work through their problems. Positive behavioral interventions, or PBIS, has been used in schools for a number of years now. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, of 1997 and 2004 strongly suggests its use for students with special needs. Using an overall program within the school sets the expectations the same for all students, which enables everyone to understand and help each other. The idea behind PBS is on proactive positive behavior supports and interventions to keep those students, which is about 80 to 85%, who always do the right thing or within the expectations of the school. The 5 to 15% that's at risk for some behavior problems then has a little more focus and a little more structure for what they need. The 1 to 7% who are at the risk of the most severe problems and having chronic issues can then be met with a behavior management type program to help them address their needs. The most successful schools have several things in common. First, they invest in preventing problems by defining the behaviors, teaching the behaviors, and supporting the expected student behaviors. And more time is spent on what is going well than what isn't. Another one that they have in common is the officials of the school, or administrators, follow those expectations and respond very quickly and very effectively when students do not meet them. Rapid and effective support systems for identifying and addressing school needs of students who are at risk of developing problem behavior are then in place to meet those needs. There's also a focus on when working to set up your positive behavior support plan, it's best that the PBIS areas are taught in the same way that the core curriculum's taught, by utilizing lessons and reinforcing the behaviors as you go through their daily life in the school, so they see what the behavior looks like, the reactions that are positive, the reactions that are inappropriate, and the way that they're expected to behave on a daily basis. Also, within those policies and procedures of setting up that plan, you want to make sure that you keep in mind the cultural differences. It can be very frustrating for both students and teachers. When I moved to the native villages of Alaska, the children called the teachers by name, and it was very frustrating for teachers coming in from below who felt disrespected by being called by their first name, whereas within the native society it's most respectful to call someone by their first name. So it was a clash of culture and not respect. And once people understood that, some were okay with it, some weren't. But it's those kinds of things that you need to talk to your community, you need to understand the people who are there to gain insight into what is respectful and what isn't respectful, and what's appropriate and what's inappropriate at those times. So unnecessary disciplinary issues don't arise. Another aspect to keep in mind are children with or students with fetal alcohol syndrome or some type of brain injury. Oftentimes the processing time is longer and they need things kind of slowed down and given a little quiet time to figure things out. Louder and slower and closer don't help very often. You want to know your community and know the expectations of your community and have input from all directions and all people that will be involved. And once it's established with a continuity, the kids know what to expect. They hear the same verbiage after each incident and the same type thing, so it becomes very consistent. And that helps the kids maintain both the positive aspect and to grow within that framework. When more support is needed and the positive reinforcements and the setup and policy and procedures aren't helping a child be successful and they need more support, this is where the functional behavior assessment comes in. And initially you want to set up a team, which in a large district can be a large number of people, which makes it difficult to get everyone together. Or in a small district, it might be just you, the teacher. Sometimes it's me. You want to identify and define those behaviors that the child has. One of the first introductions I had to this type of assessment was very simple. I had a child who would just go ballistic once he had to start working on his math problems. He loved math, couldn't figure out what the problem was. The counselor came in and did an observation and talked to him and came back and told me the scratching of the pencil drives him nuts. He can't stand the sound. Let him use a pen. He used a pen from then on, no problem. So when kids have difficulty, we may have to let go of some of those hard and fast rules we have of no math with pens, and it may make a difference. Other times you go through the whole large assessment, which collects the information. You determine the functions of the behavior, what the antecedent is, what may set it off. In this instance, it was the scratching of the pencil sound for that child. It may be very simple to figure out. It may be difficult. And you want to go through and define those behaviors and the consequences of those behaviors and see what you can do to help that child move into behavior that's acceptable, but also that makes that child feel more secure. You want to categorize the behavior and form your hypothesis, and you want to develop an idea of what possibly could help and work through, starting with simple things, one at a time, behaviors that you want to help that child modify, which can be difficult because we want to fix the kid all at once. You want to figure out where the deficits are, and are they social deficits? Are they deficits in understanding? Is it something that the child just doesn't realize, and all you need to do is say, let's not do that? Other times it's ways to work through the behavior and decrease that behavior while increasing the behaviors that you want to do. And you're doing this basically testing your hypotheses. And then you develop your interventions, and you can set up a behavior plan. I'll post a plan that I used with this child a number of years ago that I've modified over the years, that is very specific and very clear to the child, and he gets clear feedback on a regular basis so he knows where he is with that. There's no gotchas and no jump to conclusions on things. He knows quickly if things... My apologies for the technical difficulties. Have some issues trying to work them out. I think I'm back on track. Here is the behavior plan, and I made a recording going over it. This shows you how one was set up for a student I had who had difficulty following the adult's directions with whom he was working. And I go over in a short video of some of the ways that it was used and the objectives that we had and how that worked. And if you should have the need for writing one yourself, this is one that you should be able to download and use from your own Google Docs file that you can modify and make your own, enabling you to get an idea of how to set one up that's pretty structured. As you go through with the positive behavior interventions, you want those kids that are in the minority, the 20% that have some difficulties, to be moving towards that 80% and hopefully finding their way. But you'll continue to monitor and provide interventions as needed so that those students can get the help that they need to be successful as adults. If you have questions, please let me know.